Evening all. Hopefully you can all hear me. It looks like I'm on, I think. So fingers crossed you can all hear me. I'm just hoping so. Just have a look at my... give me a shout if you can hear me. I know who's in. So it's because I messed about with the inputs again. So it might be that it's not actually working, but we'll just see. Yeti microphone, there we go. Now, fingers crossed that's going. Loud and clear, good stuff. Evening everybody, all clear, good stuff. Evening John, evening Andy, evening Carl, evening Steve, evening Jonas. And I just noticed that there's one thing up here from Tony. I've lost it in the chat, but he said he's got a new job, so good work on that, young man. Well done, well done. That's a shame. So I thought tonight that we'd have a go at Ask Me Anything, because I asked about it. Evening Howard asked about it on the community tab. Excuse me. Also over on Twitter we've got the Evening Kev. It's also the Terrain Tober challenge as well. So if you're on Twitter, check out the hashtag Terrain Tober. Basically, all you got to do is build a bit of terrain in October, hashtag it, and at some point in the future, once they're all done after October, I will put them all together, all the pictures together into a video, so everybody can see what everyone's done. So that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment, because I'm going to be very busy for the rest of October, unfortunately for me, or well, not, but so I just thought I'd try and get some things knocked out. So I'm going to do another Patrick Miniatures house. I'm just going to put these things together tonight as we're chatting. So anyway, what are we saying? What are we on about in here? Expecting a good group tonight with PCP? Possibly. It was a good number last time, so it'd be nice if it was this time as well. And yeah, you've got to start thinking of some questions, so throw your questions at me as well. I'll endeavour to answer them. How big the overlap to PCP is? Pretty big. Yeah, they get a much bigger audience than I do, Carl. They average over 100. I normally get only a couple of dozen, which is always good turnout anyway. So where are we at? Good evening, Harold, a UK correspondent. So you saw that then, Tales from Shed HQ. Check out the new Little Wars video if you haven't seen it, that went out today. I've been keeping quiet about it. PCP is Terrain this month, okay. Evening Paul, good to have you. Been enjoying Alex's channel of late, so I popped in for this one, good stuff. If you haven't checked out Paul's Old Frontline podcast about the First World War, do so. It is fantastic. It is excellent. It's well worth checking out. Listened to quite a few of them while I've been painting. It's always a good little background to anything else. So what I said I'd do is, I did say I would do an Ask Me Anything, but so far none of you asked anything. Oh, there you go, there's the first one. When you're not chatting to us while you paint build, what do you listen to music wise? Well, I'm mostly into metal, I guess. I'm currently wearing one of my favourite band t-shirts at the moment, Swans. No worries, John. But when I'm actually painting and building, I generally don't listen to music. I actually listen to I listen to a lot of YouTube stuff, but I listen to a lot of streamers and things. Celtic Frost, yeah, classic. So I love Celtic Frost, they're fantastic. It's so yeah, just it's a case of I listen to a lot of streamers and things. Probably if you had a look at I was just listening to Alan Partridge just before this. Okay, Carl says your gaming is heavily weighted towards the 20th century. Why should you avoid the earlier periods? It's what turns you towards? Well, I like the Napoleonic stuff. A lot of it really probably goes back to my interest as a kid, really. And it's the stuff that I found interesting as a kid that's kind of stuck with me. So it's been Second World War, First World War, and Napoleonic periods. And for me, wargaming is very much driven by my interest in history. So if I have an interest in the history of something, then I have an interest in wargaming it. And my interests in history are mainly 20th century and the Napoleonic Wars. So that's kind of why I end up with those, really. I'm trying to recreate, what I've read in a book on the tabletop. And I know you could say, well, you could read about, I don't know, a 7 Years' War or something, but it's not really something that interests me from that point of view, really. So that's kind of why I'm concentrated on those periods. It's not so much that I avoid them, it's just because I want to explore the periods that I'm interested in more. You could spend your entire wargaming career just playing Second World War stuff if you really wanted to, or even First World War stuff if you wanted to. So that's kind of why I avoid them, I suppose. And it's not so much I avoid them. I don't play them, but I'm happy to play them if somebody jumps it up. Paul says, would love to hear more about how you varnish your minis and what you use for it. So much choice where to start. Well, number one, Paul, is this stuff. This is what I use. This is Winsor & Newton Professional. But make sure it's the professional stuff. It's matte varnish. And I just spray it on. It's just a spray. That's literally all it is. So it's a case of just getting this. I buy it online. You can get it on Amazon or anywhere else. But make sure it's the professional artist spray. The other stuff is not as matte, and it's great. I've been using this for about 10 years, and all I've done is the only time it's ever buggered up for me is when we had a heat wave a while back, and it frosted, but that's literally the only time it's ever happened to me. It's really, really good stuff. So it's not cheap. It's about 16 quid, so it's worthwhile getting. And no, I haven't found out about the SP Velocity on Lid and Swallow either, James, but good evening. Has the Winsor & Newton spray varnish been okay since the incident? Yes, absolutely. No problems with it, even including the stuff that didn't spray properly as well. That was it's just gone back to what it was. I'd give it a good shake. It must have been, all I can think is it must have been something to do with the heat temperature just knackering the stuff up. That's literally all I can think of, because I think that was the same stuff I was using. I tested it before I sprayed it again before I sprayed lots of figures with it, and it worked perfectly fine, so don't worry about it. Yeah, Paul, it's but spray varnish, well, varnish in general is one of those things that everybody will literally, everyone will have their own taste and flavours of it, so it's a case of finding what works for you, I guess. That's the main thing. So, but yes, that's my recommendation, and I know that other people that have bought it and used it, they swear by it as well, so I can't be the only one. Right, these here I've got are some AB miniatures, some Napoleonic casualties. I got these from Eureka. I thought I was watching one of Travis's recent. Yeah, it's certainly heat and humidity that'll cause the frosting with the varnish. Yeah, it was definitely the heat. It was when it got up to about 35 degrees, or up to 40 degrees actually in the UK. It was that time, and it's the only time that it's ever happened, and that's about the only time that's ever happened as well, UK wise. So I got these after watching Travis's game of Sharp Practice recently, and they were using dead ends, so I thought, no, yeah, I haven't got any casualties, I'll do that. I'll use those. Scott says, in one of your early Chain of Command videos, use blinds to represent enemy forces, and more recent ones don't. What are your thoughts on using blinds for solo gaming? Right, well, the reason I use the blinds in the early Chain of Command games is because I'd almost just come over from playing I Ain't Been Shot Mum, and that uses a system of blinds. That uses them, and uses them very effectively as well. It's in the same way that Through the Mud and the Blood, and also and I think some of the other early Lardy games, well, stuff like Bag the Hun as well uses blinds, and it's a case, and I stopped using them because I just started playing Chain of Command properly, in inverted commas. The early ones, I was using them really to show how to use blinds and how to do solo wargaming, and then I kind of realised that you don't really need it for Chain of Command, as long as you just do the thing that you need to do. You do the best you can for the side that you're playing at the time, and so you don't really need blinds, because it's such a chaotic game anyway that it's going to be one of those. It doesn't matter. You just roll the dice and you have to use whatever you've got, basically, to the best of your ability. So blinds aren't really needed in Chain of Command, I would have thought. But if I was playing something like I Ain't Been Shot Mum, which is a bit less, a bit more. What's the word I'm trying to think of? Chaos is too much. Lesser friction. I would use blinds, and it was again. It was coming off the back of playing stuff like Rapid Fire and things like that, where it's one of those things where you're playing the. Like soldiers trained for the last war, you play the last game you played when you start a new system. And I'd only started playing Chain of Command relatively recently when I started making those videos anyway. So that's why I was still thinking of the old days. So I don't know if that's a long enough answer, or if that makes sense for you. But what's my thoughts on using them? I think they're very good. It depends how you want the game to go. If you want to make it so you don't know what's facing you, then I think they're great. A lot of board games use them, so it's that kind of thing, John says, what's your go-to brand for miniatures and vehicles? I don't really have one, John. It's whatever I need at the time is right for me. I like Peter Pig 15mm stuff. Vehicles wise, I've got a lot of Plastic Soldier Company. I've got lots of Edsa stuff as well. I've got a lot AB miniatures for Napoleonics, these 18mm ones, but I have got Fizzer's little metal Fizzer Johnson's stuff coming through, so I want to see what they're like. I want to see what they're like up against these. So I don't have brand loyalty, basically. Whatever somebody is selling that I need or want, I will, because you never really need anything. I will take that, I think. That's what I do. That's what I do. I just basically choose whatever I need and get that. Yeah, brand loyalty. And there's some people, that will just buy one particular type of figure. And I'm doing it for the Napoleonics because AB are the only ones that do 18mm. Oh, well, no, they're not the only ones, but they're the ones that do the best. So those, I've got brand loyalty there to an extent. So forget everything I just said. But yes, it's completely dependent on what it is, what it is I'm doing, what I'm getting them for. So James said, you have unlimited time, space, budget, miniatures and terrain. What would you play and why? What period, what scale and what rules? It's a difficult one, that, because you'd want to do something as big as possible, wouldn't you? Really. I mean, my first thought would be, I don't know, maybe something like, I don't know, O Group in 28mm, but each figure is 1:1 scale. Just for fun, just for the stupidity of it. I think that would probably be, because I like the game anyway, and I think it'd still work at that scale. And I think that would be, it'd just be stupid and fun. But then, I look at stuff like the 28mm Napoleonic games and things, and I'd like to, recreate Waterloo at 1:1 scale in 28mm or something. So you know, just for the spectacle of it. But what rules? I don't know. Probably General de Brigade or General d'Armée. I enjoyed those when we played those. So I'll probably go for something like that, perhaps. So I don't know if it'd be able to handle it or not, but I'm sure it probably could. So yeah, they probably might be my choices, I think. Kevin says, Algie pulls it off. How much would you need to have played the game if you wanted to join in at a certain game day? Kevin, you don't need to do. You don't even need to have known what the game is to join in at a certain game day. And I'm assuming you're talking about Steel Lard. If you're coming along, you're more than welcome to jump on board on my Algie game. You don't need to know anything about it. You'll learn everything as we go. The last time we played it at what's it called? Lard Workshop. Nobody had played it before. I think only a couple of people had even heard of it. So yeah, there's absolutely no need to have any idea of what's going to go on with it. Just jump in. Everything will be provided. It'll be thrills and spills and lots of machine gunning in the air, I hope. What did you say, James? You don't even need to know what a plane is. It's that easy a game. It is, isn't it? It's very good. Carl, how does I Ain't Been Shot Mum stand up to Chain of Command and O Group in terms of scalability and smoothness of play? Differently. Much more differently. The I Ain't Been Shot Mum is a great game, but it's an old game, and you can tell that because it has a big firing chart in it, which I think if they were writing it now they wouldn't have it in, and it feels a little bit old school and a little bit of its time, I guess. But it's a card drawing action. So you draw a card and then you get to move operator like a platoon or whatever it is, tanks, your tanks, platoons or whatever, or a big man or something. So think of it like sharp practice. It's kind of like big sharp practice basically. So in sharp practice, instead of just moving, operating one big man, you might operate a platoon as well. So you've got you're doing a lot more, and it scales pretty well. I think I don't know what the biggest game you would be able to play with it is, but you'd probably be able to go a lot bigger than Chain of Command, but not as I'd still love firing charts as Yorkshireman. God no, I hate them. I've played some relatively big games. The problem is with it is remembering which numbered platoon is which. So after about maybe 3 platoons, you might start, you need to have some kind of I don't know, some reminder somewhere that'll just some pointers on the table that just show you exactly where it is, that which unit is which. I think that's probably the difficulty of it. So it gets to a point. It gets to a point with where it might just become a bit cumbersome, I guess. But it's still a very smooth game. As James just saying, it's got all the charts. It was great fun in 28mm. Yeah. Like a fantastic table, and it is a great game. But as I say, it's a bit of an older game now. And the thing is as well, because you're generally only operating one unit at a time, there might, if you're playing multiplayer, there might be a bit of sitting about for other people waiting and stuff. But I guess, it moves as fast as the players move, I guess. That's the thing. You could always have them where you say, right, well, you've got, 20 seconds to take your move, and then we move on to the next person. If you haven't moved anything by that point, then it's game over. I haven't played it for a while, actually, and I mean to get back to it. My mate... He made a quick bucket of dice scheme for it. Basically, he just took the firing chart and then turned it into a bucket of dice. But it still takes a little bit of while to add up all the dice as well. So it's as long as it's short, really. For I Ain't Been Shot Mum, to be honest. you turning it into dice or turning it in, or using it as a chart. Evening, Tom. John says Lindy Bash has the idea of using different colour tufts and numbers of tufts in all different platoons. Yeah, that's a way to do it. Absolutely, that's one way you could do it. But I'd not done it to that point when I first started playing. So I just kind of got a bit mixed up with it, to be honest. And as James says, I use the same idea for O group, and I do as well. Because of the platoons, it's quite hard to see what they are on the table. So you just have to have a nice little mix. What have you missed, Tom? Not much yet. How do, Richard? Good to have you on board. How do you imagine that technology will impact upon our hobby? Well, as you know, 3D printer is impacting massively on it, and I think it's a huge thing. That and MDF as well. I thought MDF was probably like a big thing. So it's a huge shift in the hobby. And I was just looking at the Marmont Harringtons that you sent through to me, Richard. So thanks for that. I was cleaning those up earlier on. I'll get working on them. Have you worked through my questions on Twitter? No, I haven't seen them, Tom, because there was a cut-off point and we're past it. I might be using the same idea myself for exactly that. Good. Ralph says I can hear Plymouth Argyle Stadium noise while listening to this. Sounds like Sheffield Wednesday getting hammered. Well, good. I'm glad to hear. You'll find no love for football here, I'm afraid. This is far better than watching the match, I'm fairly sure. So yeah, I think 3D printing is probably going to be, and when they get to doing colour printing as well with painting it and stuff, which I expect will probably not be very long off, I think that's going to be a massive, that's going to be a huge shift in the outcome of the hobby. Pre-painted 3D prints will be something else, and I can guarantee you, give it another couple of years, and we'll probably be seeing it, if not already. Kev says Tom got busy with the questions. Oh yes, I'm sure he did. Up the house. When it's all the metal 3D printers trickle down from industrial to commercial users. I've seen Boeing's printing parts. There you go. Yes, they will be different as well. I don't know though, but they be more expensive is a question, I guess. It's all about price, isn't it? When it comes to printing for wargamers and stuff. Tom says, can you think of a game which you found emotionally challenging? Maybe a World War I unit you've been reading deeply about and then gone on the table only to have them wiped out. Well, there is one. It wasn't a First World War unit. 1 second, just reply to my wife. It was during the Malaya game that I was doing. You think rules will move to your phones? Yeah, I think they probably will. PDFs and stuff. They're kind of already there, aren't they? It was during the Malaya game, and I got a little plastic sergeant called Sergeant Thompson, and he got a little backstory. He was an ex-miner from the Australian outback, mid-40s. He'd fought in the First World War, and then he'd come back, and then he came back, and then he got killed in about the third or the fourth scenario of the Malaya, and it was quite an impact, to be honest. Even having just a little plastic fella just taken out by the Japanese, it wasn't nice at all. And I just had to sit down for about 10 minutes just to gather my thoughts when it happened. Which shows the power of narrative games, I guess. So yes, I got emotionally involved with a plastic fella on my tabletop, and yeah. Right. What we're saying here? Jonas deleted something. digitally enhanced gaming tables, projecting on ranges, unit stats. Yeah, that might. Any thoughts on them? It's an idea we've been playing around with. Yeah. Do you mean onto the actual the tabletop? Yeah, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Like having almost. Ralph has to relax his feedback rules on YouTube. I don't know what that means. Yeah, you can get. Is it Warlord that sell those line of sight checkers, don't they? Which are basically thin lined laser pointers, aren't they? So they have those already, and you can get measuring things, can't you? They use them in when they're when people are selling houses. You can get like a laser measurer that just bounces it back. So there's potential for those, I guess, just to see that that's is a thing that could work. I don't know how it'd work though. You'd need a relatively solid thing to bounce it off of. Sound American. So yeah, I think and yeah, ranges and stats and stuff would be good on the tabletop. I think if you could do that, you know, like kind of like a hologram almost, but not a hologram, but you know, just something that you could do it from your phone, I guess, couldn't you? That would be good. Naming the main unit goes back to Featherstone's Advanced War Games. Yeah, absolutely, of course. Yeah. Don has got a lot to answer for. He's you know, he was a godfather of wargaming for a reason. But yes, I mean, it certainly adds a bit of kick and punch to your to the games, I think. And it's, you know, we were talking about it on Twitter the other day, and it was Raglan. Gareth was sort of saying that he prefers a game of narrative, and it's not about winning and losing. And I agree. You know, as much as I like to win a game, I don't mind losing it if you're losing it well. You know, and it's about getting there, isn't it? Going from one end to the other end of the game, and everybody enjoying it. Okay, slope. What aspects of World War I, World War II do you think are difficult to effectively capture in a war game? All of it, the terror of it, I guess. Because we're not dealing, even in Ken, I'm just seeing your message go up, we're not, you're not dealing with real people, are you? You're dealing with plastic soldiers, which generally act as you want them to do, depending on what game you're playing. So yeah, the terror of it, I guess. It's a way of trying to recreate it, but it doesn't always work, does it? You kind of got to remember that when you are doing wargaming, that, you know, as close as it is, it's never the same as. So yeah, I suppose everything. Jonas says, deleted message written with sausage fingers. Do you know any good World War I Lawrence of Arabia-esque 15-28mm games? And Shaco says, Yorkshire Gamer plays one. He certainly does, and it is If the Lord Should Spare Us, which again is another Too Fat Lardies game. It's a very old one that Nick wrote, based around, I think, his grandfather and his actions out in the Middle East. Played it at Steel Lard a couple of years ago, last year, and if you have a look on my Steel Lard report from last year, you'll see images of it at least. It was good fun. But I only played like half an hour's worth of it. So no half hours, 3 hours worth of it. So I don't really think I got the full test of it, but it was good fun. You've been thinking of strapping a projecting camera above the table using AI to identify objects and then enhancing the gaming table with it. Could track shock and show changes. That is very. That's very thinking outside the box there. Very much so. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Do you think you'd be able to do it though with small figures? How big would figures have to be for that? All my leaders in my WSS Sharp Practice Force are named after characters from Trumpton, Chigley and Camberwick Green. Excellent. Trumpton Riots. Paul says, he liked the story about the Malaya Sergeant Alex. I had 3 FX8 8th Army Matildas. I was very proud as a young wargamer. It was always hard to see one get knocked out of an 88. Exactly, that's the thing. It takes it gives you a kick in, really. And it's weird because, you know, they're only toys on the tabletop, but you just get so invested in them. And Sergeant Thompson, I still remember his name now. I still remember it, you know, several years later, and I remember what happened. And I literally had to just, you know, take a moment to gather my thoughts. It was awful. Ken's saying there's a French company that are doing a Kickstarter with Lawrence of Arabia era. There you go. I'm fairly sure there's other ones out there. A friend of mine I think he was looking for Turks, and he's been doing an Arab revolt thing as well. But I can't remember where he got the figures from. I think they were 28mm. By the way, 25 people watching and only 7 likes. Hit that like button, folks. Please do. Tom, what are the 3 most innovative mechanisms you've seen in all the Wargames rules sets you played? Well, I would say probably the command dice from Chain of Command, just because I think it's such a brilliant way of doing it, and it adds so much nuance to the game itself, and so much nuance to working out the game and learning the game while you're playing it. But I also like as well the shock in Too Fat Lordy's games, and I think that is just absolutely fantastic, because I was thinking about it the other day. I really don't get on with war games these days that are I go you go I can deal with, but when you have a move phase, a fire phase, a morale phase, and then a melee phase, I really just cannot get on with that. It's just to me it's such an old school way of doing things. It's like we've got past this. Let's just mix things up a little bit, and just allowing, like, you know, action points or something for a unit to do whatever it wants in whatever order it wants to do is the best way of doing it. And I think shock works perfectly for getting rid of all that, you know, that roll for morale at the end of the turn or the start of the turn. And I think it's a really good it just encapsulates everything simply, easily. So because it spreads across so many sets of rules, I think that is probably my favourite. Whereas the Chain of Command dice are only in Chain of Command. But I just think, yeah, the shock is just such a good thing as well. Where we ask, John says, which came first? You're interested in archaeology or wargaming? Did one drive the other? That's a very good question, actually. I'm going to have to go back. Let me have a think. Well, I've always been interested in history, and I've always kind of thought of myself more practical and hands-on, so I was never really a book reader. So I was always interested in archaeology as a nipper as well. Wargaming probably came later, because I came into wargaming through military modelling, so I was doing 1/35th scale Tamiya kits and Airfix kits and stuff like that when I was a nipper, and then painting esky figures, and then got into wargaming when I got to about 12 or 13, and I went to big school and met somebody who was already a wargamer, and he introduced me to it. So archaeology is kind of like archaeology has certainly driven my interest in First World War wargaming, because I went to France and started doing some First World War archaeology, and then from that I started learning about the First World War, and then off the back of that I did wargaming because I was learning the history of the First World War. So a little bit of both, really, I guess. Your top mechanism is the card system in Blood and Plunder, etc. Okay, well, I've not played Blood and Plunder, but I assume I think it's quite similar to the sharp practice ones. Oh, 1-0 between Plymouth and the Owls, good for them. You agree about the old school way being rubbish? Really, our hobby's really moved on. Well, you know, some people like it, and if that's what they like, then that is fine. That is grand with them. It's just not for me at all. Because I play a lot of board games as well that aren't war games. When I say board games, a lot of people think, you know, like Avalon Hill kind of stuff. I play a lot of modern board games. And it's one of the whole idea behind board games is innovation. Board gamers like to play innovative games, and they want to play innovative games. So every new game that comes out has to have a new mechanic to make it sell, basically, to a group of people. Whereas in wargaming, it's a completely different thing. Excuse me. It seems that we're way behind the times when it comes to doing the to actually putting. There's also a real lot of kickback as well. I mean, talk to Rich Clark about that. Anytime they do something new with Too Far Lardies, the wargaming world reacts against it. It's weird. It's very strange. It's not very innovative sometimes, wargaming. Where we at? Ken says you posted a link to the French company. Yeah, Ken, where is it? Can you link it in here? In the chat? If not, stick it in the Storm Steel group or on the Facebook page or whatever. You're alive. Hi, mate. World War on Archaeology. Where were you working on? I'll come back to that one, John, because that's a long one. Crowd's gone quiet. First favourite rules. Right. World War One Archaeology. I'll quickly deal with that. I've worked on lots of different sites at this point, John. I started back in 2003 on Champs-Élysées. I've worked at Theatre Woods. I've worked at Courcelette. I've worked at Luz. I've worked at Ypres. I've worked at Bullecourt. I've worked where else? Oh my God. Lots and lots of Serre, lots of places that half of them I can't remember. We did a couple of TV programmes over several months. I was part of a group called No Man's Land, and we were digging in France for almost for 20 years. The last time we were out was on Bullecourt. I've been doing that with Operation Nightingale stuff though. There's actually a video on it, John. So if you have a look through my videos, there is I did a talk, and I put the video up as a talk. It's like an introduction to some of the stuff we've done. So have a look at that. That'll tell you some of the things I worked on. I've not done it for the last couple of years because I've just not had a chance, and obviously with COVID and stuff. Crowds can quiet, blah blah blah. Stop talking about football or I'll ban you. Favourite rule set for 15 plus years ago and why? 15 plus years ago, that makes it what, 2007? That would have been Rapid Fire. And why? Because that's what we were playing. Or maybe not, actually, no. From then, probably Square Bashing. Because it is a... I was playing that then, and I still think it's a great game, even though that is like, move, fire, melee, morale. So I think that was probably Square Bashing, because I'm still playing it. Do you think the historical wargaming is split into two separate hobbies, tournament, competition gaming, and scenario gaming? Yeah, I think it's getting more and more apparent these days with that. I think it definitely is. It used to be, I don't know, it felt like, 20 years ago it probably was more there was more tournament gaming, or tournament gaming was a big thing, whereas now I think a lot of games are coming more you're getting more scenario based games and also skirmish based games, so you're getting smaller numbers rather than the big games, even though they're not dead yet. But I think it is. But there is still a lot of people who play both in tournaments and in scenario gaming as well. There's a lot of crossover. I mean, I never played tournaments because I don't like them. It's, as I was saying earlier, I prefer to play a game for the fun of the game rather than anything else. It's not about winning or losing. It's good to win, of course, but it's if somebody wins and they're better than me, then that's even better. So I'm talking about myself. Sorry. Yeah. So historical war. Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. I think there is becoming a bit of a schism, but I think also there's still a lot of crossover as well. It feels a little bit like, I've talked to a lot of people at Too Far Lardies events, and a lot of those people have said that like Don was saying, he used to be a big tournament gamer for years and years, and then kind of got into Too Fat Lardy stuff, and their whole raison d'etre is about that, playing the game, playing the period, not the game, and that's and I think that's probably what a lot of people do the same as well. There's a lot of difference between US and UK rules. What do you think? Yeah, I think there is as well, Mr. Luddites, Wing Commander Luddites. I think there is. Again, I think the US rules kind of seem to be a little bit, again, old school in that, fire, move, morale kind of way. And I was talking to Jim Oziski, I think his name is, from the Tabletop Dragoons about this on Twitter, and he was saying that yes, the Americans generally, and I'm generalising here before anybody jumps down my throat, I'm generalising. He says in general, they're much more interested in those kind of rigid phases within a turn, and he says there's quite a lot of kickback against things that are innovative. And again, generalising, of course, but I think it's just the way that people work, isn't it? But then also US gamers in general, again, a lot of them don't get to game a lot, so they probably want to play something that, when they get together to play. So it must be, I'm guessing, it must be. They probably just want something that's relatively simple that they know, I guess. I don't know. Again, generalising. Ken, it didn't turn up, Ken. It must have been blocked. I've not put a block on it, but if you go and share it in the Storm of Steel Facebook page or on the group or something, stick it in there. You're not sure agree on the points about board games and innovation. I think that we're now seeing many of the same mechanisms. I don't think that's true, Tom. I think there are similar mechanisms, but I think they are being used in different ways. So, like for example, like deck building that came out with Dominion has been used a lot, but it's being used in a much more innovative way these days than when it was first. It is, Tom. It's been used in a much more innovative way nowadays than it ever was done in the past. Like, look at Arkham Horror, the card game, compared to Dominion, and they've got the similar kind of mechanic in that you're building a deck, but it's really a case of you're doing something completely different with the cards. You don't think so? 5 years ago? Oh, I think there is. Again, like looking at Ark Nova compared to Terraforming Mars, they're very similar, but there's so much more to Ark Nova. It's like Terraforming Mars' bigger brother. You can't find a link. I think YouTube does blog stuff as well. They post it on the Facebook page. There you go. Cheers, Ken. Thanks for that. You prefer days like CrackCon, but Tony's giving me a chance to get 5 games in on a weekend I can plan for. I move into a non-turning meetup days and my hobby fix. Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's whatever works for you. This hobby, it's big enough for everybody, isn't it? And if that's what you like, if you like playing tournaments, then play tournaments. If you like playing narrative games, play narrative games. If you like playing both, play both. Personally, I'm just not a tournament player at all, because the last time I played a tournament was 20 years ago when I was at the York Wargames. I was at the York Wargames club, and we had a DBA tournament, and another group came over for the night, and we basically played several games of DBA over the evening, and like moved around each other, like speed dating with 15mm figures, and it just got too tetchy. It was all about, have you moved like that 2mm further than you should have done, and I just thought, I'm not dealing with this. This is nonsense. I sometimes get it as well, like with other players as well that I play with. It's like, if something's an inch out, they won't let it be in range. It's like, to me, it's close enough, unless it's like miles out. Just roll the dice. Don't matter. You know, it's two soldiers. So that's kind of why I don't like tournaments. But again, if that's what works for you, then that is what works for you. John says, local club in South Forest is a bit of an odd mix rules wise. Some of the rules look like they were printed on dot matrix printer and played like they were from that age. Yeah, you can kind of tell them a little bit, can't you? No, I don't like tournament gaming. I don't. I'm like, the game, it's about the game, you know, it's not about... I can't even remember half the rules anyway, you know. So I wouldn't even be a very good tournament player. As you can see on my videos. Yeah, the old school. I mean, I like the old rules just for nostalgia's purpose. Really, I like a lot of them because they're interesting. You know, it's a slice of wargaming history, isn't it? It's something that's happened. That's hedgehog. It's something that happened that's you know, has been and gone. Really, it's and it's just nice to see. You know, I've got a lot of Don Featherstone's books and some of the old school, like Stuart Asquith's books and stuff. And I got them just to read them because they're nice. They're just nice books to read, you know. And I've got some... I did have a load of old school rules, but I did sell them on. But they are, you know, they're just nice to have a look at, to see how things have changed. Evening, Gareth. Agreed on tournament play. If you love it, go ahead. Yeah, you've had a couple of god-awful experiences. Yeah, and I'm the same. Like, I just didn't enjoy it. Maybe it's terms we're using. The mechanisms are the same, but how they use different, improved. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's the innovation. All right, the mechanisms are relatively similar, but it's the innovation. I think the wargaming should be about the community and love of being with others. Absolutely, Richard, you hippie. But yes, I agree. I think that's what it's about. It's about community. It's about getting together with some mates and just having a laugh and rolling some dice, isn't it? And if you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. You know, don't break your figures if you lose or flip the table. It's not worth it. Anyway, hit that like button, folks. 30 of you watching. Evening, Andrew. Good to have you on board. I've not even got onto the questions that people ask me outside of this, so this is going well so far. Do you want me to answer some of those, or do you want me to do a separate video? Tail says, one thing that puts me off from tournament play was seeing the Flames of War tournament with Gurkha's first 8th Army. Yes, exactly that. I hate that kind of thing. I really do. And again, I know it's only tiny toy soldiers, but God, you know, let's just have a little bit of historical accuracy. Why does Tiny let you hug the screen in your videos when they're so much cuter than you? She would do. I don't know where she is tonight. I think she's down. I put the heating on, so she's probably asleep next to the radiator. She usually tries to push me out. I think my views would go up if it was just Tiny, though, wouldn't they? Chance time could crack, exactly. You love tournament gaming, but only with certain rule sets. I love playing new people. Again, we are just a bunch of folks. Exactly. Well, again, Steve, you know, if that's what you like it, if you like it, there's people that love it. You know, they're big into it. It's just, it ain't for me. But this, as our pal Sean Clark says of the God's Own Scale, it's a big enough church, this hobby. So, no more. So it's, you know, do what you want to do. Do what you want to do. Evening, Andy. Dr. B. First live stream. Taking me this long to find the chat. Well, welcome aboard. And if you've got any questions, chuck them in. I'll keep going for a bit, I think. I'm enjoying this. But yeah, so I was going to say, do you want me to answer some of these questions that other people sent in as well? Because I was going to do a separate video for these ones. But since we're having a bit of a chat, you don't see wargamers as a community, as a bunch of enemies. Perhaps you should do more tournament gaming then, Mr. Luddite. I mean, that's it seems like that's for you. But yes, it's yeah, it's just to me, it's just about a game, you know. I was playing just the other week. I went to my mate's house and we were playing. Speaking of Argnova, I played that with her for the first time, and we were just trying it out. And even though it's my game, I just got beaten. I got hammered, but you know, I had fun, and that's the main thing about it. Really, it doesn't matter. Jonas says, from the outside, it seems like there is a gaming club at every corner to the left of the pub in the UK. Is this far from the truth? I think that really depends on where you live. I'm very lucky here, being next to Sheffield, because I could probably go wargaming pretty much every night of the week if I wanted to. At a club. So let me just think about it. So there's a club I go to on a Thursday, that's in Sheffield. There's a club on the night before at the same place, different club, don't ask. That's on a Wednesday. There is also literally 5 minutes walk from my house is a Games Workshop, so if I wanted to go and play Games Workshop games, I could go down there and play there, and they're open late. 15 minutes walk from my house is another wargaming shop. They play mostly Warhammer and Games Workshop stuff, but they do a little bit of historical things. So that's another one. So that's 4. There is also, I believe, there's a Rotherham War Games Club as well, which is on Saturday. So that is another one that I could go to, and that's again about another 10 minutes, 5 minutes drive from my house. So that's 5 so far. Then there's Barnsley War Games Club, that's about half an hour away, so that's 6 right now. We're up to. And I'm probably sure there's probably one in Doncaster as well, which I could probably go to, or a couple. There's also a shop in Barnsley that does it. There's another shop in Sheffield. There's 2 shops in Sheffield at least that have game spaces. So there's plenty of for me in Sheffield here. There's tons of them, but it's finding them is the hard part, because they don't really advertise themselves very well. Ours does, but the other Sheffield one doesn't so much. Where we at? Flames of War Nationals last month. US Normandy played Russians, 3 games against Americans, only got to play Germans in the last round. If it worked for you, Aled, it worked for you. Good stuff. Historical accuracy, does that include playing some really poor troops? Yes. I ask because I'm actually going to do a couple of Volksturm companies for O Group that I can swap in now. Yes, 100%. I've got Romanians for that reason. It's more of a challenge when you've got crap soldiers. It is historical accurate. You can't always have paras or the SS on the table, kicking their way through everything. It doesn't make the game as enjoyable as if you're battling against the odds if you've got troops that are going to go. If you know you're going to possibly lose, but so the winning is even more sweeter. Anybody can just get the best troops and min-max a list and then just curb stomp your opponent. What's the fun in that? Really, it's much more fun just holding on, I think. And that's again a reason why I don't really use points in games. I don't like them much, apart from as a bit of a guide. Kev says very far from the truth here in Cheshire. Yeah, I think you've said that, Kev, before. That's a bit of a shame, but you're a bit of the way out, aren't you? I think out there. But yeah, where I am is very, very well served for gaming. You should make one, Kev. Take your own advice and in WSS magazine, which was a very good article, by the way. I really enjoyed it, and start your own wargaming club. You build it, they will come. Which campaign from World War I do you think will make an enjoyable, chaotic Kriegspiel? Why and where can I get the maps and oobs for it? Combray. There you go. That'll be great. Combray. Maps. I don't know. Oobs. You would be able to get them from the Combray book by Bryn Hammond. There'll be some stuff in that. That would be fantastic. The big tank attack in 1917. Different club, don't ask. Classical schism in a club, yes. Well, no, it is. It really is. It's like the twain will never meet, and I think. To me it's crazy, but that's just the way they do it. I've only been a member of the club for a few years, so I don't have that hang up, but some people do. Obviously, both clubs say theirs is the best club. Sometimes it's the nature of the rules that decides the nature of the tournament. Saga tournaments are fun, but ancient rules produce competitive tournaments where players seek out winning army lists. Yes, yeah. Well, I don't think it's just ancient rules. All rules, like Flames of War, you'll have winning army lists and things, won't you, as well? I couldn't never really get on with Saga. Played a couple of games of it. Didn't hang right with me. It was not my thing. Maybe it's because it is more for tournaments, I guess. Don't answer the questions. You've got still more. So shall I not answer your questions then, Tom? Gareth says, I'm looking to run my first Lardy game at Winter Wonderland using Through the Mud and the Blood. Do you envisage any issues using British Empire versus the Mad Muller's forces? I'm assuming that's Mad Muller's forces. I don't think so. I think it'll work pretty well, to be honest. I think it's a great game. As long as you played it. As long as you played the game a few times, Gareth, and it is a great game. I played it last weekend and forgot how good it is, actually. And you can also add in several different cards and things just to mix things up as well and make it a lot more fun. And yeah, it should be good. Where is the Winter Wonderland at? I can't remember where that one is. John Sowerby says, World War I maps. Have a look at trench maps. Picked up on the way when you lived in London. Yeah, also, you've got a book of trench maps. Yeah, there's quite a lot out there. Have a look at trench maps. Have a look at the National Library of Scotland and look at their digital part and look at the military maps. And it's got all the 1/250,000 scale maps, frontline maps of the First World War. Not all of them, but some. Cheers, by the way. Fun one to write. I'm trying to link up with things here in Warrington, get historicals on the map club-wise. Good idea. Good. Do it. Build it and they'll come. Even if it's only a couple of years to start off with, it'll soon grow. And yeah, it was a good article. I put in an idea for an article for WSS, and I was never replied to. So well done, you. I don't often think it's the game's fault. Points can be useful outside of competitions, but once it gets identified as being something for tournaments, it gets stretched to its limits by a few. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I find points useful. Bristol, yeah, too far for me, unfortunately. I find points as good as a guideline. So it's, if you want to balance a game with you just throwing down on the table, you say like, okay, we'll both have 100 points each. But in general, I prefer to have historical orders of battle if I can, or one side. Evening, Dom. Don't worry, you're late. There's no timer. Yeah. I mean, it's the problem is it's when people abuse it, like you say. It's when people take those points and they make them the best things, the worst things that they can. What's the name of the book? Tom says, Tom, I can tell you there is one at least called Topography of Armageddon by Peter Chasseur. There are lots of them out there, actually. Paul, if you're still with us, can you put have you got any ideas for trench map books? There will be a hell of a lot out there, but have a look at the National Library of Scotland's website and you'll see the stuff there as well. Which games, rules, sets do you think are most likely to tempt Warhammer players over from the dark sides of the sunlit uplands of historical gaming? Well, it's been said 1,000 times, and I think it probably does work. I think it's probably bolt action, to be honest, or any of the Warlord games. They're probably like the closest to Warhammer in the way that they work and the way that they play, and so people can go from one to the other. Tell us what you're laughing at. So yeah, I think something like bolt action. A lot of people also say stuff like maybe like Saga and things like that. Probably the stuff that's probably more of a game than a historical thing, if you know what I mean, without wanting to upset anybody. Oh, is it the same one, John? It's a good one. So yeah, I'd say probably like bolt action. Now, when I was at the Games Expo showing that Luke's big board for Karen 10, a few lads came over and they played a game and I umpired it for them. It was bolt action and they'd never played it before, and but they said, oh yeah, it's quite similar. They'd play Warhammer and stuff, and they were saying, oh yeah, it's quite similar to that. So I would say something like that, I guess. Yeah, how many armies did you paint last night, Dom? Briefs or boxers for Wargaming? Well, I'm wearing boxers, so boxers it is. Sorry for late, you're cooking tea, so look out for fire engine headings at Fir Park. I shall keep it. I'll keep it on my mind. I've got it on my shelf. Yes, there's quite a few. Peter Chasser is a good man for trench maps. He's an expert on them. So yeah, just check out any of his books. Go Commando. put your enemy off. Fun fact: on many maps, there is a winter map over Sweden on the backside. Very funny. 30 boxes. Boxer shorts or briefs. Or Brandenburger if you're playing German. Indeed. Yeah, so... any more questions coming in? Or am I going to start on this? Tom, I thought you said you had loads. Or have you run out of them already? So again, 30 odd people watching. Hit that like button, folks, if you're enjoying this. Lederhosen. Has this gone off the rails? Am I going to have to start banning people? We'll have to see. But yes, so go back to your First World War thing, Tom. I would say definitely a good Kriegspiel would be Combray, I think. Just because you've got the mix of tanks and infantry going in together for the first time. Bolt Action is a good transitional game from Warhammer to historical. There you go. Difficulty is moving people onto other games. Yeah. Bolt Actions have some great community developed supplements for Moderns and Vietnam. Yeah, it's very well served because it's very popular, isn't it? So people will do what they can with it, won't they? They certainly people. Wargamers are notorious for messing about with rules, aren't they? Nothing else, at least. You know, it's the one thing they like to do. 33 likes. Infamous underwear of Siege of Peking. What historical book have you found most challenging on your understanding of that conflict? What's your best silly hat for Wargaming? And I don't wear silly hat. Oh, apart from the German 1917 helmet I've got to the back there. Historical book you found most challenging on your understanding of the conflict? Mudblood and Poppycock by Gordon Corrigan was a thing that completely changed my view of the First World War when I first read it. Now, I first read it nearly 20 years ago. I don't want to mention the cod piece. So my understanding of the war has moved on quite a lot since then, having done a master's in it as well. But that was the first thing that made me think about it in a completely different way. Or was it actually Trench Warfare by Tony Ashford? I think that was also that really turned it on my head and made me think, it's not what I thought it was. So yeah, that's the. So they were the things that turned it up. We ran some games of What a Tanker at your local show. It seemed to go down well with the Warhammer players. Yeah, again, What a Tanker's a good one, isn't it? Because it's nice. It's a nice game just to because you've only got one tank generally, haven't you? One or two tanks. So it's nice to have people doing their own thing on it, really, and it's a dead simple set of rules as well, just to make it easy as well, even better. What periods would you never play? That's a good question, Dom. To be honest, the answer is none. I would play anything, but playing and collecting are two different things. So, like down at the club, if there's a game on and somebody says, "Oh, do you fancy playing, I don't know, the Mongol invasion of Turkmenistan?" Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'll play that. No idea. No. I've got nothing about it, but I'll still play it. But would I collect them? No, because then I would be, expanding myself beyond what I'm comfortable with. So it's not a case of never play. And I'd even play Warhammer, to be honest, 40k and fantasy and stuff. I'd play it, I'd bitch and moan about it while I played it, but I'd play it just to see what it's like. Nothing else. We'll see how it's changed. You think World War II is a poor setting to bring the general public to historicals, to be honest? Okay. Fun isn't something that comes to most people's minds when bringing up World War II. It depends how you approach it. If like Bolt Action is is very much like Commando comics, isn't it? And Victor and stuff like that. So you could approach it like that, really. It depends literally how you play it on the table, I guess, and what you do with it. The lads that I was playing with, that Bolt Action game, their first Historicals game, and that was capturing some maps from Karen 10. You know, it was, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. They really got into it. So, you know, there's ways and means. Can we do Dom a yellow card? I don't have any, I'm afraid. So he's got away with it. You use Bolt Action for War of the Roses. May have a video of the Battle of the Channel. Okay, I'll have a look for that, Ken. That's interesting. I wonder how it worked. I suppose it's just the same, isn't it? You're just pulling chips out of a bag, really, aren't you? Pirates seems to be a good bridging subject. Yeah, everybody has an opinion on pirates, don't they? And they're fun. You know, they're fun, aren't they? It's like it's fantasy historicals, isn't it? Really, it's a way of getting people involved. You know, Pirates of the Caribbean and all that stuff, isn't it? I was sitting in my classroom and I decided to yell, "We did it, Reddit." Everyone laughed at me. Good for you, Bob. Right. If you had to do a period in 28mm when Ken becomes king of the world, what would you do? That's a good question. To be honest, I don't know. I might do First World War, perhaps. I think yeah, probably First World War, because I'd do Through the Mud and Blood in 28mm. I think that would be the way to do it. I think, just because it kind of appeals to me in that scale. Western Front, of course, and obviously I'd have a big old trench system and everything. Ken is a 10mm man now. If you talk about Yorkshire, yes, he is, isn't he? He's changed. Gordon Corrigan has done some excellent lectures at Western Front. I know he has. I highly recommend folk look at their YouTube. Yeah, there's some good stuff. Mud, Blood and Poppycock, like I say, nowadays I look at it a bit different. I think it's one of those things. It's a little bit bombastic, I think. It's not as nuanced as it could be, but it is still very good though, and it's a good introduction to the revisionist school of thought. So I definitely recommend people again. I think Gary Sheffield's Forgotten Victory is a little bit more nuanced and a bit more. It's a little bit more serious, maybe. I guess maybe that's the wrong word, but a little better. James likes Blood and Plunder, as the rules are great and the period is not Pirates of the Caribbean, it's proper age pirates in the 17th century. There you go. We shall have our Bolt Action Dad's Army participating in a Selvage on the 16th of this month. Excellent stuff. I always mean to go down to Selvig, but I've never really never had a chance to. I think it's just a little bit too far. That's the problem. I think that's the problem with it. What do you think the chances are Ken will start Skirmish Wargaming now that he's broken out of 28mm? We've already seen boats. Ken's done plenty of other stuff. He's got loads of 15mm. That's what he started on. Don't let him tell you any difference. If you could meet any military unit from history or present day, which would you choose and what would you ask of them? All of them. Well, like all 800 men in the battalion. That's a good question, that. I don't know. That'd probably be something with the probably a unit from the Waterloo campaign, perhaps. And I think it'd be because a lot of those men didn't write stuff down. There's a lot of information about Waterloo, but you want to know a little bit more about it from a man on the ground's point of view, I think. Whereas stuff like the other periods of history that I'm particularly interested in, First and Second World War, there's a lot of literature about them from the men as well, from letters and diaries and all sorts of stuff. Whereas with the Napoleonics, there just isn't. So I think something like that. I don't know any specific military unit, maybe. You'd meet the 9th Legion, and that's where they disappeared to. Yeah, just before they disappear. If you were able to go back to see any battle from the past, which one would you choose and why? That's another good question as well. I was thinking about this. I think somebody else asked me this in the outside of this. But which one would I choose? Again, perhaps might be Waterloo, to be honest. The problem is with battles, having never been in a battle, you'd have to be able to fly over it, wouldn't you? Really, because you'd have to see the whole thing. If you're on the ground, you wouldn't see much apart from what's right in front of you, and that's probably people shooting at you. So yeah, I'd probably go and, or maybe even a First World War battle, maybe the first day of the Somme, fly over the Somme as it's happening, just to see what was happening. Where we at? Selwick has moved to north of the river, the Lee Valley Sports Centre. Yeah, I did still look at it though, Ken, but from where I am, I think it's about a 3-hour drive or an even longer train journey, because you have to go down into central London and out again, I think. It's just off the beaten track for me. And also, as James says as well, it's the CrackCon weekend as well, so I'll be at that, I'm afraid. James also says, love to meet Blucher. Anyone who can lead a cavalry charge in the 70s deserves to be met. Not only lead the cavalry charge, but get crushed by his horse and survive. But yes, certainly. I'd sit down and have a pint with him. Gareth, you'd never contemplated collecting minis in different scales. It just requires too much scenery. Yeah, I agree. That's why I do mainly 15mm. I've got a few other bits of things that aren't the scenery, like so for Jewish Dread or for Star Wars. I can mix and match the scenery there, so I do that in 28mm, and also that's because they're the only figures that you can get. Well, you could get them. Well, I've got them in 15mm as well, but that's by the by. But yes, it's not something that I really think about. I just do it because I just think, right, I do 15mm wargaming, so I'm just going to buy 15mm high stuff because I've already got everything for it. Why change? And I'd have to double up the amount of scenery I've got. So yeah, wow. Got a bit of a throat going on here after all this talking. I don't know how these streamers do it, when they're online for hours at a time. They must have superhuman strength. Well, yeah. Given how war games love trying to change history, what historical outcome would you change if I had the chance? In real life? I wouldn't. I wouldn't, because it had changed too much. Have you never watched time travelling films? Everything had changed. Biff Tannen would be in charge. He'd have an empire like Trump's Tower. There'd be riots and things. So I don't think I would, to be honest. I find history interesting in itself, without having to think about it. I don't really like alternative histories so much. I don't really. I just don't think it's. Well, it's interesting, but to me it doesn't serve a great deal of purpose. But so some of it does, but some of it doesn't, because I just bought that Armchair General. But yeah, to me, I just prefer reading about history. So no, I wouldn't change any outcome. What's the greatest find while doing your day job? The AB or 18mm? Yeah, they're close enough to 15. 1 sec, I'll come back to you, Gareth. I'm sat here putting some Perry World War II and clean some 2D6 Germans. Good work. Spread yourself around, Steve. There's nothing wrong with that. As I say, it's like the tournament, isn't it? If you like it, do it. What's the greatest find while doing your day job? Okay, well, 2 answers to this. First one is my working as a normal archaeologist, I guess, and then the second one is as a battlefield archaeologist. And as a normal archaeologist, I think one of the best things I found was we excavated a Roman well up in York about 10 years or so ago, and it was stone lined, and it was about 3 meters deep, and that was fantastic. But next to it was another older wattle lined one, and when we pulled the wattle out, because it had been in water for over 1,000 years, it was perfectly preserved. It had gone black, but it was perfectly preserved. But you could still see the axe marks where they cut the end off and to stick it into the ground, and that was amazing. It looked like it had been done yesterday, literally. And just to hold something like that in your hand. The other great thing I found was in Iceland when I worked over there for a year or so, and it was in the last week. I was just about to leave, and then in the last week I found a spindle whorl which is used for spinning, for pulling wool out ready for spinning, and it was a baked stone, baked clay, and it was about, I don't know, about that big, about 3 inch across, and it had actually got a woman's name carved into it in runes, and it said this belongs to Vilborg, carved in around the outside of it, and that was fantastic. Again, just to have something that somebody had written on, 1,000 years. Good night, Tom. 1,000 years ago, and then it had got lost, and the fact that she'd written a name on it, and that was fantastic. And it's now actually in a museum in Iceland. It's in the museum over the road from the site where we were excavating, so that's nice. World War One, First World War archaeology is probably the first body that we found, which was, second body we found. It was a German guy, and I was just cleaning the area, and I found his clavicle, his shoulder bones, and we ended up being able to name him because he got his name on his dog tag that he scratched on there. So that was pretty good. That was nice because we were able to bury him again in a grave with his name on, basically. So that was good. You're only interested in the military stuff. Well, I just told you about it. Where we at? How the Perry's World War II figures. I'd love to see Waterloo floating about in a helicopter, but I worry the reality may be too hollow. Yes, I think so as well, to be honest. Good night, Tom. Doing the 8th Army plastics, and they're very nice, realistic scale. So yeah, and also just recently, actually, the excavation that I organised at the Lodgemore Prisoner of War Camp, Grace, the supervisor, on the first or second day, she found a German dog tag there, so that was brilliant to find that in Sheffield. It travelled all the way from northern Germany to Sheffield, where this guy had ended up interred, so that was good. So I'm trying to think about what other stuff we found. In Luce, we were excavating a massive lump, a mass grave of German soldiers, and in one of their pockets they got a little talisman, basically, where it was made out of a British bullet and 2 French bullets that had been fused together, trench yards, and it had got little things to either hang around your neck or off a badge or something. That was in someone's pocket. That was good. And obviously the 6 foot of First World War tank track that we found at Bullecore as well. And again, I was watching the machine when that got uncovered. So I'm taking all the what's the word for it, the glory for that. That was good as well. And then again, Andrew's doing the Warlord 8th Army Sikh Army for Chain of Command. Excellent, good stuff. Good to hear it. Right, okay. I think I'm going to wind up there. That's been an hour and 20 minutes. I think you've had your money's worth. So I'm going to sign off there, I think. What I do is I'd say I've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 more questions I got here from elsewhere. So I'll go through those and I'll make a video as well of this. Just found the No Man's Land website, very cool. Like I say, toured a lot of the Flanders sites, good stuff. So I'll make a video of answering those questions as well. They're slightly different to ones I've answered here, and I'll stick that up as well at some point. So thank you everybody for joining. Hit that like button. Once again, it looks like when the Plastic Crack podcast don't broadcast, it looks like I get their viewers. So thanks for the lads at the PCP for not being in. that was good. Do it more often. Cancel more often because I get better viewers. But actually, this is probably going to be my last live stream for a little while because I'm giving a talk next week, and the week after I'm going to Cyprus for work, and then my wife is back in the country, so it certainly won't be for the next 2 weeks, and it might it might be not for a few more weeks after that. So just bear that in mind. And as I say, I will say good night to everybody, and thanks again, everyone. It's been good fun, and we'll have a. I'm looking forward to meeting you as well, Tails, and I shall see you all when I see you all.